Hey everybody, Steve Forkham, Channel Chief and Head of Marketing here at SIPPIO, and welcome to day 2 of Fleet Week. Today is Partner Day. Yesterday we had a really great set of sessions to kick off this Fleet Week. We had our opening keynote. We were joined by Don Rielder, our Chief Operating Officer, who walked through SIPPIO's timeline, where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. Some really exciting stuff that's coming down the pipe, especially for partners. I think you guys are going to all love Beacon and what Beacon can do to simplify your quoting and activation process, and then later on give you business intelligence into your customer base to help you understand how you can grow your businesses by offering your customers more value, and to help you cut down on the amount of headaches that come from deployment options inside of Teams, Zoom, or WebEx. We're going to be using AI to make configuring these environments as easy as telling it what you want by text or by voice. So some really exciting stuff happening. We then had 3 customer sessions yesterday. We talked about the value of leveraging your collaboration platform as your next phone system. This concept that voice and communications are no longer a standalone thing that you buy, but now a feature that you turn on in the platform you've already adopted. And then we had 2 sessions dedicated to our friends in higher education, talking about the value that this movement can drive in better servicing students, faculty, administrators, and alumni leveraging these platforms. And then to close out day 1 of Fleet Week, we then had a session for our friends in the legal space, talking about how you can better enhance client satisfaction, client care, increase communication and collaboration inter-firm while increasing billables overall. So a lot of great stuff on the docket from yesterday. Today, we've got another great day planned. I've been looking forward to this day for a long time. In my new role as Channel Chief, I'm focused on our partner community and building out the scalable to support you as you look to grow your businesses. Today, we're going to have a really great keynote today. I'm going to be sharing with you some exciting news from SIPPIO, some of our research in the market so you can understand where the white space is in the market. Then we're going to be joined by a couple of industry experts. So Patrick Watson from Cavell and Peter Radizeski from Channel Playbook. They're going to be coming up to talk about what they see in the market and what they see in the channel. And then I've got a fireside chat with the one and only Sean Torres, CEO from Intelecom. He's going to walk you through how he's building one of the fastest growing managed service providers in the country, how he's actively finding opportunities in the UCaaS space in this challenging economy that we find ourselves in. And then we're going to close this out today. And then this afternoon, we've got a really great value treat for our partners. We've hired and commissioned Peter to operate a training. So he's going to talk to you more about what he sees in the market for partners to capitalize on, how to activate and excite your customers, how to be out there prospecting, how to drive business through to closure and actual revenue. So that's going to be a great session this afternoon. And then tomorrow, day 3, the final day of Fleet Week, we've invited some of our supplier partners to join us. So they're going to be talking to you about their the Calling and Beyond library and what they can bring to the table to enhance not just voice in these platforms, but to truly make this a collaboration environment inside of these platforms with things like text messaging, WhatsApp for Business, real-time and historic call analytics, call recording, and a host of other capabilities. And then we're going to be rejoined by Patrick Watson. At the end of the day, we're going to have a fireside chat where Patrick's going to be talking about some of what Cavell's research shows in the market, what customers are looking for in this new hybrid workforce of today, and what that looks like tomorrow. Really, really excited for that discussion. But I want to start with the news that we just pushed out on the wire, the all-new SIPPIO Rewards program. SIPPIO Rewards is really our attempt to build a program that rewards partners who are actively trying to grow in this space. I've talked with partners a lot. 2020 is not like 2025. In 2020, you tripped over 4 deals going from the kitchen to your office in our commutes during the pandemic. But 2025, it's totally different. And what we found is a lot of partners find themselves at this intersection of evolution and revolution. You evolved from premise-based phone systems and selling circuits and long distance to UCaaS, but now it feels like the momentum's just not there. I'm constantly running into opportunities, but my customer has Teams or Zoom or WebEx deployed, and I'm feeling like I've got to learn something new. I'm feeling like I've got to figure out contact center or AI or cybersecurity, because those are quote unquote where the business is. And what we can do is we can act as a crossing guard to help you across that intersection, because there's so much more room to serve your customers in this collaboration and communication space. You just need to continue evolving. And with SIPPIO Rewards, we're going to give you the tools to understand not only how do you evolve, how do you treat teams not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity to offer your customer something that complements instead of competes with what they've already got deployed, and also to make a better margin profile, to make more money doing it. So SIPPIO Rewards is going to give enhanced margins for our partners that want to resell the SIPPIO solution on their paper. We've launched a brand new SPIF program inside of our TSD environments to give our sales agents and our trusted advisors a one-time cash bonus up front. We're going to have access to an all-new MDF source for partners to actually actively develop opportunities and to build a healthy pipeline working with us and doing some joint marketing resources. And then we're going to give you access to SIPPIO resources. SIPPIO resources will be people, it will be product, it will also be solutions, content, marketing. We've got a whole batch of research and content and vertical marketing tools that you can use to actively be talking to your customers about modernizing their communications environments, leveraging Microsoft Teams, Zoom, or WebEx as the foundation, and just making them work better. So SIPPIO Rewards, stay tuned. It's going to be a really valuable program for partners, and I can't wait to share more details of it with you as we meet over the next coming weeks and months. Next, I'm really proud to announce that we're going to be a platinum sponsor at the upcoming Telarus Partner Summit at the beginning of August in Anaheim, California. I am currently building out a world-class team that will support you as a partner. I'm actively recruiting. I've talked to a batch of really exciting candidates. I'm going to be building out a team of channel account managers that will be there to support your business, to leverage and lean in to help you understand the market opportunity, to help you enable your sales team to understand how to position this solution. This is the easiest solution that you're ever going to bring to market, because it's just additive to what the customer already has. You're not trying to learn messaging, video, and phone. It's literally saying, how do I make this work better by adding communications to it? So this all new team, my goal is to have them all onboarded and ready to go. You'll be meeting us all out in Anaheim at Disneyland for the Telarus Partner Summit. Really excited to be a platinum sponsor with Telarus this year. And this is an example of some of the research that you can find working with SIPPIO. We took a ton of time into looking at the market to try and find the white space that you can go out and capitalize on. So we've done this for all three leading platforms that we have in market: Microsoft Teams, Zoom, WebEx. No matter which one of those platforms you specialize in, you're going to be able to access market research that will help you better target and identify where the market is right now, where the critical mass is that you could aim your demand generation at, to drive a healthier pipeline that will then turn into a faster sales cycle and speed time to revenue. So you're actually closing business faster. So on the Microsoft side, for example, what we've looked at is where this is in market. The customer adoption bell curve is a science for new product adoption, and it never fails. Whenever you bring a new product to market, you've got to find your early innovators and your early adopters. These are the people that don't wait for someone else to go first. These are the ones that want to be involved from the beginning. They want to be a part of that feedback loop that helps make the product more robust, that guides roadmap, and ultimately they become influencers as you move into the critical mass market, as you move up the bell curve. We all know these people in our lives. Imagine the iPhone. The innovators are the people that camp outside of the store on day one. They've never touched an iPhone, the new iPhone. They don't know anybody that's got the new iPhone. They don't care. They camp out in front of the store because they want to be the first to buy it. Their cousins, early adopters, well, they're not quite that passionate. They'll pre-order. They're going to go in on a first day of availability. They're going to pick up that new iPhone. Again, they've never touched it. They don't know how it works. They don't know anybody that's got it, but they want to be among the first to use it. And then they start using that new iPhone, and we all know where we may be in the early majority. We know these people as we see them out in the field. Oh, is that the new iPhone? How does it work? What do you think? And these people influence our decisions, and then we ultimately buy. The Teams phone space, and I think broadly this applies to the entire collaboration communication space for Teams, Zoom, and WebEx, making communications a feature in these platforms. It is about to jump from the early adopter into the early majority slice of the market. This means there is a ton of opportunity for partners to be out there serving their customers, to give them the ability to lower their telecommunications costs by a total cost of ownership reduction of almost 140% in some cases, to help them increase productivity by consolidating everything to a super app, having messaging and meeting and collaboration and calling and text messaging and customer engagement all inside of one place. Eliminates the tiresome app switching and help them harness innovation. And for you as a partner, there's a lot of opportunity here. So this is really the sweet spot for a partner to jump in. You're not late. Now's the time to jump in. And then when we look specifically at the Microsoft market, there's a really critical white space that emerges. The Microsoft Teams total addressable market continues to expand. There's 320 million monthly active users on Microsoft Teams right now, but you're never going to reach all of those. Some of them may be stuck out of reach because of geography. They're in regions you don't serve. Some of them may be users that will never leverage Teams to its full extent. They're just using it for a certain element or piece of it. But when we look deeper, you can start to identify that white space. There's a service obtainable market in the middle. That white space, roughly 60 million seats, is users that are licensed for Teams Phone, but they haven't added a calling plan yet. So if you look at the chart, you see there's 80 million licensed, there's 20 million that have the calling plan already. So that means there's a 60 million seat slice of the market. That's what you want to get after. So then the question is, well, why is it that somebody would have Teams Phone, but they wouldn't have the license to go with it? So we at SIPPIO have started really thinking about this, and how do we find those customers, and why would somebody have a license but not have a calling plan to do it? And we operate under the thesis that they have that calling plan without, or the license without the calling plan, because it was bundled as a part of a license uplift. They're on the A5, E5 Teams Phone Premium or Teams Premium seat, and that license came along for the ride. And the reason they upgraded was not for the phone, but because of the other entitlements in the bundle, something like security. So that starts to paint a picture. There's this 60 million seat slice of the market. There's security focused customers. So then we've developed, and you have the ability to access this research, an ideal customer profile for customers that are on the Teams platform. And this is who we recommend partners go after. When we recruit partners, this is what we're looking for partners to help us reach. The critical mass of the Teams install base is down market. We say our ideal customer is between 50 and 500 seats. Now I can scale to support 2 million seats. So, if you've got somebody that's got a large, seat base, that's fine. We can do that. But the critical mass, where you're going to find the most opportunity, is looking in that small and mid-sized business up into the mid-market businesses. And for SIPPIO, this is really important for us because we built our platform from the beginning in Microsoft Azure. And the reason that matters is I have no bare metal iron. When I add a customer, I'm not going out and buying servers and amortizing capital expenditure across X number of seats and being underwater until I sell that many seats. With Azure, I have compute, storage, and networking access on demand. I can scale up, but I can also scale down. And because the platform is fully automated, I can handle a lot of that volume business in that SMB and SMC space. And that really gives you a competitive advantage because the platform's fully automated. It's fast to turn on. It's easy to manage with our all-in-one SIPPIO dashboard. And because we're Azure native, we're reliable forever. We've got a 5.9s SLA. It's a carrier grade platform. So the critical mass in the market lies in that SMB and SMC space. You heard all three vendors yesterday talk about that being the next area of growth in the business. You've got the tools to do that. Then the next question we ask as we look at our ideal customer profile is we say, well, what verticals would most likely adopt the upgraded A5, E5 tier because of those security entitlements? And that's why we've built out and launched our first vertical marketing campaigns this year. We started with higher education in Q1. We've added legal in Q2. We're going to be continuing to expand our footprint in vertical marketing with finance, with manufacturing, with state and local government, not because there's any unique communications integrations for those businesses or those organizations, but because they have the highest likelihood of adopting that thesis or fitting into that thesis. They adopted the license to get those security entitlements, which means they've already bought their next phone system. They just don't know it yet. And for you as a partner, that creates a ton of opportunity to dive in and to really find those customers, find the most success in building that pipeline and closing more business by accelerating it through using SIPPIO rewards to increase your margins, finding the opportunity to accelerate the business using our vertical marketing kits. If you missed yesterday's sessions for higher education and for legal, those will be available on demand after the conference. So you can see these capabilities in action. You can use our MDF funds to work with us to develop a pipeline inside of those verticals, using that marketing activity, bringing people like myself to the table to help you close more business faster. So at SIPPIO, we want to be more than just a manufacturer that creates a product and gives you margin. We want to be a true partner to our partners. Your growth is our growth. We know the value that you bring to your customers. You're the trusted advisor. We are giving you the capabilities to serve those customers with a platform you can believe in, with a platform you can trust putting your name against because you're the ones recommending it to that customer. We're carrier grade, 5.9s SLA, and we really mean it when we say we're fast to get going with. Our automation literally means we can turn on new service faster than you can sign up for Netflix. We're creating a SIPPIO stores, so you'll be able to have an e-commerce like shopping experience for customers. No more, quotes that are 1.5 miles long with a bill of materials that's got a lot of $0 line items that make no sense. And we're reliable forever. So we're a great partner for partners to work with. We want to be your solution of choice as you continue down that evolution avenue. You don't need to take a left turn and go down revolution and try and figure out AI or figure out contact center or figure out cybersecurity, which carries with it the learning of the product and finding different buyer personas that you may not be connected to in those organizations. Your customers are continuing to evolve their communications needs. Continue to serve them as they do that. Let SIPPIO help you be the evolver in that environment. So that is an example of what you can find working with SIPPIO, why we're really excited about SIPPIO rewards. And now what I'd like to do is to bring to the stage Peter Radizeski from Channel Playbook and Patrick Watson from Cavell. And we're going to talk a little bit about what those gentlemen are seeing in the market and in the channel that can help you understand where the opportunity is. Hey guys, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Steve.
So Peter, I'm going to start with you really quick. You noted buyers don't care. They don't care about the acronyms we throw around, UCAS, CCAS, CPAS. As a product marketer, that things to my soul because I used to hate using acronyms. What if they don't care about industry jargon? what do they care about right now? And how should partners shift their messaging to meet customers where they are?
They care about outcomes more than almost anything, Steve. Especially small business, SMB, they don't have a IT staff to play around with a proof of concept. They don't have a lot of extra people to test things out. They need the technology to almost, like a car, stick the key in and start it and let it run and get some results.
Mm-hmm.
So our marketing needs to shift to talking more about outcomes and benefits and concrete use cases, which hasn't really been something that our industry has been really good at.
Yeah, definitely see that. Patrick, you and your team at Cavell track global trends. So this isn't just a North American thing. This is a global, look at the market. Can you give us a sense of just how large the opportunity still is in cloud comms, and where do you guys see the growth coming from?
Well, first of all, Steve, I think with some of the data that you showed during your presentation just then, you've portrayed that to a great extent with Microsoft Teams alone in terms of that available market, the amount of people that are potentially licensed to add telephony but haven't yet done that, which is effectively quite low hanging fruit there in terms of those users. But at Cavell on a global basis, so we track telephony markets in more than 190 countries globally, and we track a total business telephony market of more than 450 million users. And if you think that penetration rates range massively, so if you look at the North American market, generally we think the user market is more than 50% penetrated by cloud-based technologies. But if you look on a global basis, it's only around 20 to 30%. So there's a really significant volume of users, hundreds of millions of users, that over the next few years are going to move to cloud-based technologies. We always think there'll be a small proportion of the market that won't move, maybe very sensitive industries, central government, finance, defense, but the majority of the market over the next 5 to 7 years are going to look to cloud-based technologies for all of those benefits that you talked about previously in terms of flexibility, scalability, and feature function dynamics. So that there's a really huge opportunity for all of the channel partners to leverage out there.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And like I said, that was just the Microsoft research and ideal customer profile. Basically triple that, because you add in Zoom, now you add in WebEx. There is a ton of opportunity for partners in this market today. There's this perception that, it's not 2020 anymore. I would challenge that in 2020, it didn't really require skill to be a partner. You could again trip over 3 deals because everybody needed something right away. Nobody had anything in place by and large. But now the cloud comms market is seeing, in some cases, single digit growth, and it's got much longer sales cycles. So Peter, where do you think partners are misaligned in their go-to-market strategies?
They don't spend enough time in discovery. You've really got to dig into a business and find out exactly how you're going to get them to give up a PBX and move to a subscription-based model of cloud communications. And to do that, you've got to spend an awful lot of time asking a lot of important questions about where the business is going, remote workers, what else do they have, especially when you can do ROI or TCO. You got to go through, find out how many audio conferencing fax lines they have, all this other stuff that you can take and put into the bucket they don't realize they're already paying for. And then, that kind of discovery will help you get there a lot sooner and get over the hump of, well, that's a lot more than we pay for right now, or,
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, Microsoft did a great job, and they've given partners a great piece of, business development ammunition with the Forrester report that they commissioned. There's a Forrester report. You can download that on our website. That talks about the total economic impact of migrating from a legacy PBX to Teams. But you nailed it. It's not just, hey, what you're spending in maintenance on that phone system versus a subscription in, leveraging Teams Voice or a SIPPIO plan, but it's getting all of the piece parts together of what are you spending top to bottom. A lot of times partners tend to kind of just focus on, simple mathematics, A plus B equals C, but to really get into total cost of ownership, it's kind of high school algebra where you've got to make sure you've got everything together to paint that full, complete picture. Speaking of complete pictures, Patrick, One of the concerns we hear from channel partners who are at that intersection of revolution and evolution is that, the margins are declining. There's pressure on voice revenues, there's commoditization in the market, it's a sea of sameness. How do you see partners navigating this challenge, and what are the smart ones doing differently?
Yeah, this is a really tangible issue that we've seen from partners, and we track average revenue per user for UCaaS in all of the developed markets that we cover, and we've seen a decline in, as you said, sort of core minutes, termination, those sort of traditional telco services over the past decade. What we really see partners doing, and I think it goes back to what you were talking about in your initial opening, Steve, is that you need to broaden your capabilities. And I think, to Peter's point as well, it does further complicate the issue. You need to have some support in selling additional value-added services. So those might be things that are as simple as voice analytics, user-based analytics, quality of service, or you might be looking at something where it's even slightly more complicated, maybe like contact center functionality, customer experience capability. So I think, as a provider, you need to be looking beyond your traditional telco revenue streams into other areas. But I think it goes back to what Peter said, and I think that's a really salient point. First of all, you need to understand your customer base. There's no point in trying to go to your customers and sell them solutions that aren't relevant for their particular business. It's very much a solution sale approach. Understand what your customers require in terms of those value-added services, and then look to incorporate those into your portfolio. And you might not necessarily have the skill set in the particular area of value-added service that you think might be most relevant for your customers. So while you develop your internal skill sets, I think it's really important to leverage a partner who can assist you with that. So I think it's going back to Peter's point. It's understanding your customers and then applying and utilizing suitable value-added services to try and augment some of those traditionally dwindling margin and revenue streams.
Yeah,
Hey,
no, I
Steve,
agree.
can I add
Yeah,
one
go ahead,
point?
Peter. Yeah.
So the other thing is, when you have people that are PBX people, right, that we're trying to move to cloud, they haven't shopped for a PBX in like 5 to 10 years.
Mhm.
So they have no idea what's available in the cloud space, right? So there's a whole education that partners have to do. And it's hard because, most buyers are 65% of the way through the buying process. You got to back them all the way up. And then you've got to tell them what is available and how inexpensively it is available, because they're not used to buying an IVR. They're not used to contact center not being $100,000 sale. So as partners, we really have to spend a lot of time on the education piece that we aren't very good at and don't spend a lot of time on, but it's now a deep part of the sales process.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, that's partners. Trusted advisor is sometimes just a term that gets thrown out there, but it really is. When you're a great partner, trusted advisor means more than just a label.
Yep.
You really are understanding what's going on in your customer's business and how can you apply technology across that entire portfolio to help them with the two KPIs that matter. How do I squeeze more cost out of the business by leveraging telecommunications or technology right? And how do I increase revenue by investing in new technologies? And to your point, the accessibility of this stuff has gotten much broader as cloud services have taken hold. It used to be out of reach for a lot of small, mid-size, even some of the larger size of the mid-size, 1,000, 1,500 employee businesses to be able to deploy technology at scale like their bigger competitors were. Cloud has been a great equalizer for a lot of those organizations, but they need that trusted advisor that kind of shows them the solutions and the paths, and that comes from understanding your customer's business, to your point. So you've previously identified, Peter, POTS replacements, Teams voice, and vertical solutions as growth areas. If you were a partner entering the space in 25, where would you double down and why?
It really depends on what kind of business you have and how fast you need money. If you need fast money, then it's going to be transactions like POTS replacement and SIP trunking for Teams and stuff like that. If you have runway, then I would go sticky and go to verticals, because your word of mouth travels faster in a vertical than it does anywhere else. So like when you take about lawyers, if you sell into lawyers, they all get together monthly and quarterly, and they all have the same problems. And if you do a good job for one, it's very easy to pick up 10 or 12 in a calendar year. My brother used to just install dental software as an MSP, and in just Connecticut, he got 67 dentist offices in less than a year because they all just talk. So it's vertical if you have the time, and also you get more wallet share that way. But if you need cash fast, then go the transaction route.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. I can tell you, as we've been launching our vertical marketing campaigns, as we've been tying it back to our ideal customer profile, it's dramatically different when you're talking to, say, a higher education institution about how you're improving student services with administrators, how you're adding security to faculty and research by leveraging these platforms. It's the same core product, but it's the way that you're talking about it to those customers. You're not just becoming a subject matter expert in the technology, you become a subject matter expert in the application of the technology within the business to drive those outcomes. And I think back to where I started in the MSP space. My first MSP focused just on hedge funds inside of the finance space. I remember when I first started, I was like, "You got to be kidding me! Like, there's that many of these that this is going to pay." And when we started digging into it, the average hedge fund had at the time, the average one probably had like 10 to 15 employees. How do you make a business like this? And we've got multiple offices all over the place. And you quickly realize what you just described. When you become an expert in a specific space, you almost don't need to do the demand gen. I know that's exaggerating it, but your reputation leads you into a lot of potentially doorways that you've never been in. It's pretty impressive. Patrick, with increased vendor consolidation and platform standardization, like I said, commoditization, it's a sea of sameness. Do you think the market's at risk of further market erosion, or are there ways that partners can preserve and even grow their average revenue per user?
Yeah, absolutely. I still do think there's a significant opportunity there, and it actually goes back to a point that Peter was talking about previously. I think it's really on yourselves as the provider to help your customers understand the art of the possible. Peter made the point that maybe they haven't refreshed a PBX system for 5 to 7 years. They don't know what's out there in terms of the capabilities of the system. If we take artificial intelligence as an example, the most common use cases within collaboration systems are transcription, auto summarization, auto actions. A lot of business users, we think that this is sort of common knowledge because we're looking at it every day because we're within the technology industry.
Yep.
Actually, a lot of end-to-end businesses, they're not focusing on this on a day-to-day basis. They're focusing on those business outcomes. So I think by helping those end user businesses, and particularly smaller businesses, who often the person in charge of the technology estate is maybe actually running the business, not a dedicated IT manager, might be in charge of the day-to-day processes, helping them understand the art of the possible in terms of what some of these new technologies can do for their business in terms of being transformative, and helping them ultimately become more profitable and more sustainable from a business perspective. I think that's a really key factor. So helping businesses understand the art of the possible with technology, that can help you generate additional margin and revenue streams. But then additionally, I think you have to explore your own efficiencies internally as well. So not only how you run your current systems, what can you automate from a business process point of view? How can you use these technologies yourselves in your own business to become more efficient and ultimately more productive from your own business point of view? So I think there's taking the art of the possible and the benefits of new technology to end user businesses, but there's also using them internally within your own business to become as effective as possible in terms of automation and efficiency. So I think it's twofold, but ultimately there's an opportunity there in terms of these new technologies, and there's an opportunity to streamline your own business and become more effective and productive that way as well.
light bulb went off. Okay. So first off, it's almost like you've been at SIPPIO, because I remember when we first adopted Copilot, it was a bit of a nerd project for me. I was probably the power user inside the organization using it. And the interesting thing about Copilot is there's no real user interface to it, right? They give you kind of like, it's just a blank window. That's the hardest part when you're writing a story or painting a picture, is just that blank canvas of like, well, what do I put on this thing, right? And technology that doesn't have a user interface typically struggles. I think back to when Apple unveiled 3D Touch. Remember when you used to be able to hard press on an icon and a menu would pop up, but you never knew where you could press and where you couldn't. And users have a tough time if they don't have that UI. And the thing about generative AI, like Copilot, is that it's only limited by your imagination. You have to ask a lot of questions and you get some amazing answers. And the thing that was interesting when we adopted Copilot was, I kind of was the early adopter influencer on our customer bell curve. We got it for a bunch of users inside the organization. But as I started kind of sharing prompts and like, you're never going to believe what I use Copilot to do this, or you're never going to believe what I asked Copilot and what it gave me. And then all of a sudden you could start to see other people inside the business adopting it. And now the funny thing is, I'll have people come to me like, well, my friend Copilot said that I should do this, or, I drafted this with Copilot. Can you, take a look at it? You start to see that snowball internally, and then that can create an opportunity externally. Because just as the lessons we learned adopting this technology and seeing how to get it, to get mass adoption across the business, finding an influencer, creating opportunities for them to normalize the solution and increasing adoption accordingly, that to me is an opportunity for partners. Typically partners have been hunting for margin in, implementation fees and pro services. There is a tremendous opportunity to teach your customers on how to harness AI inside of their business, because their business, what challenges they're facing, the technology. There's a tremendous opportunity out there. One of my favorite podcasters, Scott Galloway, he has one of his startups has an AI course for professionals. Like, that's the type of thing our partners need to really be thinking about, because there's a ton of margin to be earned there. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, to your point, to really kind of think differently on how you serve your customers and to see these opportunities, because if you don't do it, somebody else is going to. So really great insight. Peter, go ahead.
One point for that is
Yeah.
Your best partners are going to eat your dog food, right? Your best partners are going to be SIPPIO users as well as SIPPIO sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of providers forget that. Like, on the software side, they have NFR all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, please try our stuff. Please try our stuff. Hardly ever gets used. But the ones that do use it end up being the best sellers for it, because they develop an internalization for that software or for that service. So they're excited about it, and then they get to spread that excitement to everybody else, because sales is about emotional transfer. If I'm excited, the prospect's going to be excited. If I'm blasé, the prospect's going to be blasé.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is user adoption. One of the things I see all the time when I'm selling this stuff is they have UCaaS. They're looking for new UCaaS because they're not getting enough out of the system they have. So it's like they need one function. Well, it turns out they actually already have the function.
Mm-hmm.
They just didn't know it.
Mm-hmm.
So the user adoption piece of it, as a partner, charge for the training. Go back in, show them. We have employee turnover, and also people don't adopt technology quickly. So it's like you could go in there every 6 months and train your customers on the best ways to use that system and make money. There's your margin.
Exactly. So Peter, you've trained thousands of reps. What's one thing you think every channel seller should stop doing in 2025? And then the converse of that, the yin to the yang, what's one thing they should start doing immediately?
Okay. I'll be bringing this up this afternoon when I do it, but
that was a nice little plug for the session.
Yeah, they need to stop pretending it's 2019 is the first thing they have to stop doing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the same buyers. We don't have the same buying process. We aren't even selling the same stuff we were selling in 2019. Well, some people are, but for the most part, we're not. And being stuck in that mentality of the same, like, a lot of partners are in their 50s, 60s, sunsetting, and they've been selling the same way for like 30 years. So it's like, oh, I'm not going to change. Well, everything else changed around you.
Mm-hmm.
The economy, the way we consume technology. We didn't have iPhones 15 years ago, so it's welcome to 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And for something that I would start doing, I would start using AI to help you. I go into this a little bit later at 3 o'clock, but AI can do all the research for all your prospects. And the more research you do and the more you know about your prospect, the better you can help them and the faster you can close sales. And you don't have to do it anymore. You could just tell Claude or ChatGPT or whoever to go do the research for you and pop it up in the background. Also, the AI for real-time translation. Now we're not limited to just who we can speak to, because you can talk to almost anybody with real-time translation.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's, at my last employer, one of the challenges was there were too many partners who were, on the 17th hole.
Yep.
I'm just trying to get off the course. I just need this thing to last another couple years because I want to get off the course. And time doesn't stand still. Theory of relativity. Time doesn't stand still. And I talked about partners at that intersection of evolution, revolution. There's still, to your point, a lot of partners that never even made it to the intersection yet. They're still standing, wondering where'd everybody go. They're down the street. So I think I would counter that there's a lot of opportunity, or not counter, but agree with you and reinforce. There's a lot of opportunity, but the thing is, it's not that hard to learn. Everything old is new again. There's that whole meme of, Dad, what's the cloud? It's a bunch of servers somewhere else. This isn't magic. It's what we already know. We when I first started in technology, actually even earlier than that, it was terminals and mainframes, and then computing moved to the edge, and that was different. Cloud is just terminals and mainframes again. So there's a lot of opportunity for those partners to just kind of, if you really just take a look at it, all of a sudden the picture starts to come into focus. Speaking of focus, Patrick, in your view, what are the most compelling new revenue opportunities for partners, especially those who are looking to evolve? They're looking to, cross that intersection, and to evolve beyond just being a traditional voice or connectivity reseller.
So I think if we try to avoid the sort of discussion about the base technology, so if we ignore AI, which I completely agree with both of you, it's potentially transformational. If we look at the sort of the overall bucket of the market, I think offers the most revenue and margin opportunity, and you've already talked about it today, Steve, in your opening, I think, is customer experience and contact center. So we talk about the commoditization of unified communications, or unified communications as a service, UCaaS, that we've been tracking for years. If you look at the price resilience of customer experience related products, and I'm not just talking about dedicated contact center seats, which I think, as Peter mentioned, or you mentioned, were once, 6-figure deployments and were only in the realms of super large enterprise. Now, customer experience and contact center software, either full contact center software or informal contact center, has been democratized by the cloud. And if you look at the resilience of the price points of customer experience solutions, they are still incredibly resilient and still rising. We've been tracking the average price point of a base contact center license in the US. The price has been rising over the last 5 years. It's remained relatively static. It's potentially 5-8 times more than a UCaaS seat. So I think what I would be really considering is the customer experience aspect of the market. Businesses need customer experience as a key differentiator. We talked before about, Peter mentioned translation software and sort of the globalization of markets. This is the same for your end customers. They are now coming up against competitors all over the world, not just in the US or the UK or Australia, wherever they're based. So how do they differentiate? You can drop price, which is a differentiator that's been used traditionally, or you can excel in providing a really great customer experience. And I think that's something that we're hearing in our enterprise research. Every year we survey tens of thousands of businesses globally, and more of those businesses are looking at customer experience and their customer service as a real way to differentiate from their competitors. So I'd be really tempted to invest a lot of time looking at customer experience solutions. What solutions will be valuable for my customers? How do I integrate those with my UCaaS solution? How can I offer customer synergies in terms of outcomes there? So I think the customer experience space, whether it's formal or informal contact center, certainly looks appealing in terms of the potential financials available.
So staying on that thought, how do partners balance expanding their portfolios while staying focused and profitable? Is there just a risk in doing too much, trying to kind of absorb too much? Again, I think of that partner that's at that intersection and they're being told by a lot of folks, turn left, turn left, turn left. You got to learn cyber. You got to learn, contact center. You got to learn AI. You've got to learn. That can be really, really intimidating, and you can easily be overwhelmed quickly. So, again, I'll come back to it. How do you balance that expansion while staying focused and profitable?
Well, one is find ways to learn like an hour a week. You were talking about Professor Galloway's section school for AI. That's like an hour or two every week, and it's like $500 to learn AI in like 3 months. There's lots. We have a lot of education in our ecosystem, a lot, whether it's the TSDs or the vendors or private schools. Seek some out. And if you don't want to do it that way, for partners, if you want to get into CX, find a partner who's already in CX and work with them for a while. Sure, you're going to give up some commission while you do that, but you're going to learn. And then you won't have to partner up. You'll learn it on your own. TSDs say they have a lot of resources. They have SEs. They have CX experts. You can lean on your TSD for this kind of stuff while you jump into the deep end of the pool. You don't have to learn everything, but you got to learn something. Things have changed. Like, you don't have to be an expert on cybersecurity and CX and AI and all this stuff, but pick something, because your customers are going to get it from somewhere. And if it's not you, it'll be somebody else. The thing I see the most when I'm talking to prospects is they've been neglected. 67% of customers leave because they feel neglected, not because of bad service, not because of billing problems, not because of outages, because they feel neglected. They're paying you every month, and they'd like it if once in a while you'd give them a call and say hi. So, if you go back in, this is how you get more wallet share. This is how you have customer retention. This is how you have customer satisfaction. This is how they stay with you forever, and you get word of mouth referrals. Go back in, talk to your customers. What new problems do they have? If you can't solve it, help them find somebody that can.
It reminds me of, teaching youth sports. It's the fundamentals that matter, right? It's not the swings for the fences that win the game. It's making sure that you field the ball cleanly, you throw to the right base, you're spatially aware of what's going on. So great insight. Last question. I'm going to actually ask both of you this. Looking ahead, what does the next wave of successful channel partners look like? What traits, what strategies are going to set somebody apart from the rest? I'm going to be talking to Sean here shortly. He's killing it in the market. What do you guys think the next wave of partners looks like? Let's start with Patrick.
I think you have to be dynamic and quick to move, and flexible in your business. And I think I'll reiterate all of the points that we've talked about during this. It doesn't matter what technology area that you think is going to be most important for your customers, whether it's cybersecurity or CX or AI enhancement. What you have to realize is that these technology markets are evolving incredibly quickly. We're exactly the same at Cavell. Our research has to change iteratively on a monthly basis, looking at what are the key trends within the market. So I think what you have to be able to do is be as flexible as possible, not be tied to that traditional. Both you and Peter talked about those partners who are very tied to a traditional way of selling, who might have been doing that for decades. You need to be dynamic enough that actually you can flex to meet customer requirements. You can look at a new type of technology if that's something that's going to be relevant for your customers. We've seen the massive changes that AI advancements have made in large language models 2 years ago. Very little of that was predicted by analysts, by experts in the industry. Very little of that was predicted. So I think the main thing is to be set up, to be flexible, to be dynamic, and be capable of changing and embracing the next thing that's going to make a difference for your customers.
Couldn't agree more. Peter?
So when I think about it, I think about millennials and Gen Z getting into the channel, right? And I don't know how they're going to find the channel, because traditionally it was CLEX that like went and recruited at college campuses, and then the CLEX salespeople became agents, and that's really how most of the telecom channel grew. And we don't have any of that anymore, so I really don't know how people are going to find it. But the ones I think that are going to be really good here, they're mobile first, they're creative, they're already using AI, they're more than competent at social media, so they know how to get word out, they know how to market themselves. They learn through asynchronous methods. They like micro learning, so I think they'll be ahead of the boomers and the Gen X's like myself, because they're able to internalize technology. Because they remember, I didn't have the internet, and I didn't have a PC. All of that I had to like learn along the way, and they've never not had a smartphone. So the way they approach everything, the way they think technology is just background noise, I think will change the way they sell and the way they approach buyers. And they're going to be running into buyers just like themselves, because the market is changing and those are the buyers now. So I think that's what we're going to find. You're going to find a younger, dynamic, mobile first, technology assisted, social media crazy salespeople. That's what's going to be out there.
That's a great point. I remember back when millennials were the villain. They were going to kill the workplace and everything else. And I remember sitting in multiple presentations and hearing, the people speak on stage, and it was always generally a guy. And he was talking about how, millennials are killing this, millennials are hurting your contact. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm looking around the room and I'm like, there's a lot of millennials in this room that you're trying to sell to right now, and I think that's a great insight, that as the generational shifts hit our business, we've got to understand who we're selling to. And I think the newer partners are the ones that are really going to embrace, to your point, those mobile first, digital first resources. And recruitment is another. Like, I'm looking to build a team here, and you can definitely see the value in going out and recruiting the younger generation into this industry, because it's going to be a challenge. So we'll see. But hey, Patrick, Peter, I want to thank you guys. This is a great discussion. I could go on for hours. I'm looking forward to Peter's session this afternoon. So make sure you tune in. What is it? 3 p.m. Peter, right?
Yes.
3 p.m. Peter's going to be running a full workshop end to end. He's not going to have me in the middle mucking it up. So feel free to register for that. It's going to be a great session. Looking forward to that. So guys, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And appreciate your insights.
Pleasure.
All right. So you've heard about the market opportunity. You've heard about where the critical mass is in the market. You've heard from industry experts on what's going on in the channel, what's going on in the industry. You've heard about what success looks like and what partners who are going to succeed in today's uncertain market need to do. Now, I'm really excited to welcome Sean Torres, CEO of Intelecom. These guys are one of the fastest growing managed service providers in the country. I've known Sean for years, and I'm really excited to have Sean as a SIPPIO partner. And I'm really excited to welcome Sean to join us here at Fleet Week to talk about how Intelecom is continuing its rocket ship growth even in, again, an uncertain economy. So Sean, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Steve. Excited to be here, man.
And I think you hit that first point that Peter talked about the blocking and tackling. Where are you right now, and why are you there?
So I'm in Boise, Idaho. We actually have a client that we just finished opening up a facility for them, and there are grand openings today. So I figured I should be here and be part of that, and excited to see the client we have grow. And it's a pretty cool space they're in. They actually build the power systems for these AI data centers. So for Google, Microsoft, and Meta. So pretty awesome facility they opened up with a bunch of robots, and I'm excited to see it. I've seen it on renderings and pictures, but I haven't been there. So pretty pumped about checking it out.
Very cool. I miss
the days of actually doing the physical work and seeing the end result. So I don't always see that. I get to look at spreadsheets, and I would much rather be client facing every day.
Those are the fun stories. I remember doing an implementation once, and it was at a hedge fund, and I had everything punched down in the server room, and I was walking around deploying phones, and all of a sudden the phones that I had checked off, all right, that one's there, the extension's logged and everything, all of a sudden they stopped working. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like scratching my head. I'm looking under the desk. I'm looking at the phone. I'm trying new phones. And then I wander into the server room, and I find one of the techs was trying to kind of tidy up the wiring, literally with one foot on the server rack pulling, and he literally yanked the pins out of the connectors on the RJ45s. It was insane. So we all have those stories, but I'm with you. It's always fun going to see the deployments.
Yeah, see the end result,
So let's start at a high level. Not everybody knows Intelecom. So for those who are unfamiliar with it, what's your core focus today? How has your business evolved over the past few years?
So originally it started out as a traditional telco on the side, a big of IVR, putting in phone system contracts. And we started to evolve into networking because of the transition of clients that were moving from traditional PBX to cloud VoIP. And I kind of saw the writing on the wall. So this 11, we actually put our first phone in the cloud. Am I cutting in and out?
Yeah, you're cutting out a little bit, Sean. You're in a hotel, so can you hear us? We may be having some technical issues.
It's been going in and out on there. Yeah, I can hear you
you're
guys.
Okay now. Great. So you focused into networking, and then you continued around.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yep, and then jumped from networking. We started realizing we were already managing the network. So I had an engineer tell me one day, why are we not a traditional IT company? Why are we not working on more than just a network? And at the time, I thought it would be crazy to think that we would be a managed service provider, just because it really wasn't what we were good at. And that's when in 2019, we jumped into the managed services space and started a full service technology platform, kind of end to end. And I think that's what, when you look at clients today, what they're looking for an end-to-end solution, and everything that's on the network, from voice to security, wireless, the whole 9 yards. You think about that client experience, and that's what they're looking for. They want someone that they can reach out to as a technology partner, not just using 4 different vendors for different product set. And I think that's a special thing that we have at Intelecom, is that we know voice, we know security, we know software development, application development. So I think that's where, if I look at, why we're moving upstream into the market, is they can lean on one vendor and really consolidate and get an end-to-end solution. So that's just what I've seen. And you think about voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
And voice is hindered by a network, and then they're all looking for this client experience engagement of an application using AI that they need everything to collaborate into one. And I think that's where, Peter and Patrick were talking about this and having that, what's the differentiator and what do people want? You can't just go in the days of 2019 and 2020 and it's like everybody just needs cloud voice. I still think there's market share out there in that, but people really want a solution that's giving them data or enhancing their client experience or using the voice application as a true tool and the operational function of what it does. And that's where our real focus is today is how do we embed ourselves into our clients' organizations from an operational standpoint? Because that's what really matters. It's not just a transition of like, let me be in cloud.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not buying a product, it's gaining a solution. And the only way you get that is with somebody who understands your business end to end. So, to that end, you guys have seen real success in selling unified communications as a service.
Yes.
What do you think separates your approach from others in the market? What's been the fuel for that rocket ship?
I think it's been the responsiveness and I'll tell you, man, a few years ago, we made a big investment in the client success team and we had a sales organization. We were an aggressive sales org that just went out there and went after it. And I think that's the differentiator in the MSP market is a lot of them haven't really focused on sales and marketing and approached it like the telecom days, right? You think about the days of having to go out and grow a market and really attack the market. I think what we've done there is we've been aggressive on that front. And then we've also really enhanced the client success department. Lauren and her team have done an incredible job making sure that we're actually talking to the client, right? Like I think it was Peter discussed this. Like, that's what people want, man. People want to be heard. I would agree. 90% of clients that churn, they've churned because they weren't getting any love. They were only getting reached out to get upsold a new product set, whatever it may be. So we're really defining that technology roadmap. And what does that look like? We discussed a lot of people already have teams in their environment. So the transition, even from our traditional ITC cloud product onto SIPPIO as a platform for our clients is crucial in staying engaged and teaching them new ways of doing things that they're already paying for. Even if it means cutting our margins and cost some, like we're offsetting that on the managed services platform anyway. So at the end of the day, we're keeping the client, and it's not always about the profitability of what we can make. It's about maintaining that relationship and what's right by the client. Because again, we should always treat our clients the way that we want to be treated. We're all, as in business, we're all customers or clients of some vendor, and we've been in those shoes where we don't hear from them. All of a sudden, next thing you know, we look up, there's a cheaper option out there that they never communicated to us. So we would rather be in front of that. And I think that's something that our team has done exceptionally well, is maintain the client experience. Because that's all we have. We don't look, we can be a good sales org. We have a great service operation that truly is client engaging, but that client experience is crucial to maintaining the base. Because you can go sell, and I got a lot of buddies that are in the market that can sell, but they can't maintain. So their churn's hitting 12 and 15%. So your offset, you're just throwing, good money at bad money rolling out the back door. So one thing that we've been able to do is maintain our base, which is incredible. We went through a phase where we weren't doing that, Steve, and we pivoted very quickly and made a big investment in client experience. And it took a while for that to offset.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is the key to growth at Intelecom. It's not winning new customers. Obviously, we all have to do that to grow, but it's really expanding within your existing accounts. That's the real unlock, is what I'm hearing. You're
huge,
saying,
man. It's huge, Steve. We've done that. If you look at our growth on the MRR side in the business, 50% of our growth last year came from our internal base. 50%. It's on track with the same numbers this year at an even higher growth rate. I mean, our growth rate's tracking a good 35% growth year over year. And we're already at large scale, already in the, above 30 million. So when you look at that from that perspective, like you're still maintaining this big growth rate, even at scale. And I think that's what really is telling, it's to grow a business 20% at 8 million in top line, you could do it, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's easy. It's still hard. But the average growth rate in the MSP, like a lot of them they're happy at 13%, right? Like that's a good organic growth rate in this space. We want to push the bar, and why not have 50% growth, and maintain your base. And it takes investing in your team. It takes investing in your clients. It takes learning what's new. Too many business owners are so caught up in, I think one of the guys on the previous session was discussing, we want to sell like we were doing things in 2019 and 2020 and what was, relevant then, but that isn't relevant today. And if you're not keeping up with the technology and the things that are out there to enhance your client's experience, like becoming a partner with SIPPIO, you're crazy. I know we're on your show, and I would just agree though, man, if you're not grabbing the latest technology and the ability to jump, somebody else will, and we will take your client. Like, and that's just the reality,
Yep.
And I think that's what we're not afraid to pivot, Steve. Change this industry. There is no black and white. It is all gray, and it's messy, and it's just part of it. And if you're not willing to adapt to that change, some young, hungry entrepreneur that is willing to learn the new way will find the way. And I've just always known that I'm still the Sean Torres from 16 years ago in 2009 when I was starting this company, just hungry and not knowing what I was going to do. I'm just doing it in a different way. And I've got a lot wiser in my ways, right? And I have an incredible team around me that just does incredible things, and I attribute it to that, man. If you're not bringing on new team members and investing in new platforms for your organization, you're not doing yourself justice. And finding the right people and getting them on the bus, you can do whatever you want to do, man. And I'm proving that. We don't have any private equity. We don't have any investors. This is just hard work and showing up every day and being consistent and learning the new ways. And I think that's the reality.
So, your point about if you don't serve your customer with what they want, someone else will. It reminds me of the Steve Jobs biography when he talked about he went to his board of directors and said, I've got to kill the iPod business because we're going to come out with a phone. And his board of directors were like, you're insane. We sell, hundreds of millions of dollars of iPods. And if you come out with a phone, then people aren't going to buy iPods anymore. And, Jobs' response, according to his biographer, was, if we don't, someone else will. So I think to your point, you've got to constantly be looking at, it seems like, one of the keys to you guys' success has been constantly looking out at the market and finding, new products, new platforms, new providers to align Intelecom with. What is it that you look like? What's your strategy when it comes to doing that? And what do you look for in a partner before you bring them into Intelecom?
I think it's I think it's the way they're going to support you from their side. Are they just trying to sell you on a tool or a product? Look, there's a lot of tools in the MSP space, heavy today, right? This SaaS game is crazy. And all they want to talk about is their tool and what it does. I think good partners really focus on teaching the integrators on what's the go-to-market strategy, having proper NDF funds, getting engaged. Like, just thinking about that deal we're working with you guys right now, like, you guys have been there every step of the way as we train. And it's a large opportunity. So I think that's where, when you think about that, man, like, you got to have the engagement. And I tell every vendor out there today, I'm like, if you just focused on the integrator's success and what gets them successful, you will be successful. And how do you enhance that and continue that? I think too many partners are so focused on the product instead of the outcome on the other side, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest issue today that I see is they'll reach out and they want to do the technical training and they want to do all that stuff. But like, you got to sell it and you got to have a good go-to-market strategy, because without the sales, the technical side doesn't even matter, man. Like,
exactly.
I know there's 100%. Always that fight between sales and operations, and you need them both, right? Yeah. But you still need the sale. Like, without the sales and without growth in your organization, like I've been saying for years, I've had people telling me for the past 4 years, man, we need to slow down. Like, we need to fix operations. And look, man, we have broken it 4 and 5 times with the growth, but we are not going to stop selling. We are not going to stop the momentum that we have as an organization. I've seen too many companies lose momentum and slow down and try to fix everything. Like, we're going to change the tire going 1,000 miles an hour, and it is what it is. And our clients, we're very transparent of what's going on. We're very transparent of what is happening. Think about it, man. Like, even with SIPPIO, we are selling against ourselves. It's just like Steve Jobs said, like, we're killing our own internal product that we own, our own switch. But the reality is we have to recognize, like, there still will be a place for that with UCaaS, but you have to have options and you have to have availability on what you're going to do for your clients. Because again, there's going to be engagements without a product like SIPPIO that you will not have a seat at the table. And you have to recognize that. And you can't be ignorant to the fact and have this, you gotta be humble and know that things change, man. I mean, we were there in our previous career together, right? So I've been there, man. And you got to just roll with it, So
yeah, we had to have a very hard discussion.
Yes.
I'm glad that I'm on this side of it now. We can actually have different discussions.
Me too.
Right?
Me too. But it's part of it, though.
Exactly. It's one of those things that when you have a strong relationship with your customer, and that's what you guys are to us. You're our customer, right? I treat our partners as our customers, and we talk. Your point there was really insightful, because we teach salespeople to sell outcomes, not features and benefits, right? But a lot of times vendors don't see their partner as the customer, and they don't sell the outcome. To your point, let me show you the boxes and let me show you the lines on how all this stuff interconnects on the back end and the technology. Want to buy some? Instead of, this is the market opportunity. This is where you've got to go. This is the ideal customer profile. This is the content you can use. And then let's lock arm in arm and let's go get it. And I think that really is key. And I think the other key that you brought up is customers are different today than they were last year, last 5 years, last 10 years. So what are you seeing in customer buying behavior shifting when it comes to voice and messaging and collaboration solutions?
I think it's really focused around integration into systems, current systems. I think it's having visibility on the data of what's going on in their environment, how many calls are coming in, what are the calls saying, really looking into sentiment and understanding how those calls are happening and how are they coming in, where are they coming from, right? When you look at some of our client base and they're spending big money on marketing and client acquisition, they want to understand where those dollars are going and how they're coming back in to get them there. I'm seeing a huge demand on Teams today. Mm-hmm. We're in it already today. We live in it all day. You're using it nonstop in your own environment. You're collaborating internally and externally. Like, we're even seeing that on our side as an MSP. Like, we're integrating our ticketing process through Teams, our client interaction through Teams. So if you really think about where it's heading, that's just a reality, So they said it again in the previous session, a lot of these folks are already paying for this. So why would you not educate them on a way that is going to benefit that client? And I think that's what's changing, man. And it's hard, right? The market is hard. I told my team last year, Steve, I said, look, y'all, this isn't 21 and 20 and 22 where this, I will say, man, we had massive growth then. It was easier, right? There was a lot of opportunity that COVID brought on for us with the remote workforce. And I knew that we were going to have to do double the work to get the same exact outcome. So we went into it just knowing that. And it's funny because I sit in these peer group meetings with Evolve, and SLI talks about how last year Q3 and Q4 were down quarters for the MSP market. That was my best quarters in my 16-year career. I don't know, man. I think that you just got to attack it, and you got to be aggressive, and you got to not listen to the noise. And yes, you are going to have slower sales cycles. That's just a reality. But how do you speed the sales cycle up? Educating the client, challenging them on the way they're doing things, and showing them a different way. That's how you speed sales cycle up. Too many people want to show up. They don't do true discovery. Y'all talked about that in the previous session. We have lost the ability to do true discovery today. Too many sales reps got lazy over the last couple of years because it was just easy and it was order taken, and it wasn't truly selling and doing true discovery and educating the client on how to do things a different way. And I think that's the key, man, is really, if I can give everybody advice today and what's working for us, we have a sales process that teaches our reps on how to do discovery. And we challenge them internally, and we teach them on the way it should be done. Because if you're not truly discovering with your clients.
If you're not asking questions, you're showing up and throwing up. You know, it's kind of trite, but the old adage of we got two of these and one of these, and you got to use that ratio, right? Especially in the beginning of a sales cycle. And I think every single CRM identifies stage one, identify opportunity. And the only way you identify opportunity is asking questions. What's going on in your business? And it's a lost art.
Around their business, not showing up and just wanting to talk about your product.
Yeah,
it's too often. They pull up these PowerPoints and they want to go over their organization. People are not there to hear about your organization. They're there to fix their company. So and they all have problems. And if you can help them fix their problems, I tell reps all the time, when you're buying a drill bit, you're actually buying a hole. Sell the hole.
Exactly.
Sell the hole. Don't sell the drill bit. Sell the hole.
What do you need to drill a hole for? Because what do you need to drill a hole for? What are you doing? Because that'll help me understand what size bit you need, and you need a power drill. And exactly.
I love sitting in these discovery meetings because sometimes these conversations go down a rabbit hole, just talking about their business and their challenges, and what are their goals? How are they trying to achieve those goals? How can we insert ourselves into fixing their objectives? And at the time, I think about that large opportunity that we're working on, and I sat in that meeting. And it was interesting because they weren't even discussing making a change. They were just trying to fix a problem internally on the existing system that they had today.
Yep.
And we had to have a conversation around, well, there's a different way to do it. And they told us we don't want to leave this manufacturer. And I was like, I got it. I understand that. Because of the investment they made, they still had time to depreciate the asset. So we had to really go to work and teach them that there is a different way of accomplishing their goal and what they were trying to do, right? And that's what I think companies are struggling with today, because they just want to give up. They want to show up, throw up, they want to quote, they want to put a number in front of them, and then they want to wait. And that is not what works.
You want to skip step one.
Yes, they skip step one and truly understanding. And I think back to, man, Jimmy and I owned Anytime Fitness. That was the first business I started. And I was 23 years old. I had no clue what I was doing, man. I knew I was a good sales guy, but Anytime did this training around selling a gym membership. And it was so interesting to me that when you think about the first question that everyone asks when they're buying a gym membership is, how much does it cost? So you had to teach your managers and employees in a gym to not tell them a number, but to show them the experience that they got with being a member of that gym and really understanding, why do they want to join the gym? Have they went to the doctor and they're overweight Do they have a wedding coming up and they need to get in a certain dress? There's so many different things. And it's so interesting as you really found out the why behind what they were doing. It made it so much easier, and it didn't become a price thing at that point. It just became a partnership that you're going to help them achieve their goals. And we were the fastest growing Anytime Fitness in the United States at one point, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same concept we did there. We're doing that here. And that's the difference maker, man. That is it.
So in this space, as legacy PBX migrations are accelerating, there's a reason why the legacy guys are all struggling and, they're going through their financial agita. What's your approach to helping customers make that leap? And how are you coaching your team to position solutions like Teams Phone, Zoom, or WebEx in those conversations?
I think it's two parts, man. I think the legacy integrators are really struggling with the transition from these big dopamine hits of cash and looking at how do you convert from a big cash influx to a more recurring based organization that really builds stability. I think it's learning how to adapt to that, right? And I think that's hard for an organization, especially when they've been around for 20 and 30 years. They're just used to selling on-prem, and they're used to just going out and getting these big renewals, and there's cash flow hits, right? You will have an offset as you change your business from a big capital expense sale to an OpEx sale. You'll see a transition in cash. It will level set at some point, so you got to be prepared for that. I think two, really helping the client understand the difference, and the education after the sale is crucial. So being able to go in after and really show them, because it is different. The move that change work is different. Some of the functions are different in this world. The standard BLF key and all these different things, and truly understanding telephony from a high level, and how do you teach them a different way to use a park button, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's hard, man. And I think that's what's hard with the MSP space is a lot of them don't know true telephony. So they're not educating themselves. Again, you talked about this on the previous session, and I couldn't agree more. If you are not investing in educating yourself and understanding the new way and forcing your staff to educate themselves and think about things in a different way and adapt and change, you're going to fail.
I've often said the best demos start with, let me show you how I,
yes.
Right? If I'm demonstrating how I use this technology, those are the best demos, because it just, and when you interview people, when you're interviewing people for jobs, I think this actually, I don't remember who's uses this reference, but they talk to me about one of the biggest challenges you've worked on, or biggest projects, and everybody can answer that because we all, and the word "we" gets thrown a lot. We did this, we did that, and then the next question is to drill down to separate the watchers from the doers. Is, now tell me how you did it, and the watchers will kind of struggle to get an answer through because they weren't involved in the actual building the outcome. They just kind of attach themselves to the outcome. Whereas the people that did it, they know exactly what they did, and they can't wait to tell you about it because they're proud about how they did it. And I think the same holds true in sales engagements and doing demos. Is, let me show you how this thing, I will be Copilot's and AI in general biggest evangelist with this stuff because it's done such an amazing job for me. When I interview candidates, I use Copilot. Give me a grade on this candidate based on this discussion. What are the things I should be thinking about? What are the areas of opportunity for this candidate? And sharing that stuff really shows that sense of ownership. And now all of a sudden, when you're demoing that to somebody, now all of a sudden they're seeing, they can put yourself in themselves in your shoes. Like, oh, I could see how I could use that. I could see how I could use that.
It's
so understanding the technology is huge. Yeah, educating
the
yourself to educate the client, right?
Yes.
Couldn't agree more.
There's a book out there called The Challenger Sale. It's one of my favorite sales books of all time. And it talks about a true challenger sale understands how to educate the client. And we should. The best sales reps that we have on our team, they understand their product. They know how it's used. They don't need a SE to do a demo for them. They can demo it themselves, and they can show true use cases on how we as an organization or their clients and how they've taught their clients how to use this technology. And I think that is the key, man. You're so right. And there's so much information out there for us today to better ourselves and learn and have an understanding. Like, it's really, really important. And even me as a CEO, I like to educate myself. I want to understand the product set. I'm just curious. I've always been a curious person, and I just want to understand it and want to know the ins and outs, because I hate being in a situation where I can't answer a question. And I've always been a fixer, and I love listening to people talking about what's going on in their environments. And I'm like, oh, we fixed that before. Here's what we did. Let me tell you a story. And here's how we did it. Or even, it's funny, Steve, like, I learned fixing our clients' problems to fix my own problems. Like, I've learned so much, like, about business and about understanding it. And I think that's hard, Steve, is in the sales game. Is it takes a high level of business acumen, right? And not everybody has the same experience that I've been able to do by building and running a company and knowing the inner workings and the ins and outs of all the challenges, right? We become ignorant of that. But I think anybody can learn it, because I didn't come from a background in business, right? My family didn't own businesses. You just got to put your head down, and you got to be interested to want to learn and want to be better. And I think that's the key, you know?
Yeah, I agree. So I had a question I wanted to ask, but I'm going to put it on the back burner because James put a question into the chat that I think is really useful. What would you say is the number one reason you succeeded in transitioning your business? Because a lot of vendors in this space struggle to transition from teleco to actual IT technology MSP. And I'll also say, so a lot of them struggle backwards too, right? They sell Office, they sell SharePoint, but trying to enter into the telecom space to serve those customers, even though they know Teams inside and out, that's a challenge. It's an obstacle. So what would you say is the number one reason you've succeeded in transitioning that, and why did customers trust you and your business in a market that you weren't necessarily known for?
So, I love this question. I get this question all the time. And here's the thing. If we remember the days as a telco, what would we do? We would go put a system in. We would screw things up as we're putting it in, and we'd sit back after the install, and we do an after project review and have an understanding of what went right and what went wrong. And how do we avoid those things from going wrong? Whether that's building a good cut sheet, and you just didn't stop. You kept going, right? Mm-hmm. And especially as that world transitioned into VoIP and all the challenges that we ran into on the networking side, and how do you get better? I think it's the same transition in from being a telco to MSP, or MSP adopting telco into their environment, is you just got to do it. And you got to recognize that you're going to screw it up. You're going to make mistakes. That's going to evolve over time. Like, I still laugh. I'm friends with this guy, Ernie Burns. He was our very first MSP client. He fired us, and we're great friends today. And I still laugh because he's come back to me and he's like, Sean, I need to move back to you because you guys have really, like, we learned. Like, we touched the stove. We got burned. We learned what we did right. We learned what we did wrong. I got heavily engaged into the community. And like, what I love about the MSP community is people are willing to share their information. I became vulnerable and recognized, like, man, I'm screwing this up. And let's not reinvent the wheel. There's so many people out there that are doing it right, and lean on them, reach out to them. I would just message people on LinkedIn and say, hey man, I got this really screwing up. Here's what's going on. Here's the challenge I have. And I learned, and I brought that back to our teams, and we educated them, and we just, Steve, I look at it like this, man. I look at my bodybuilding career, and it was hard. And it was like showing up every single day and dieting and exercising and posing, all for this one day to get on stage and present the work that you put into it. And the results weren't happening day one. And it was consistency and recognizing, what are we doing? What's working? What's not working? And we just never gave up. And we're still evolving that today. We're not afraid to pivot. My CIO, Delano, talks about velocity, and you have to have velocity in your company. And it's not just about speed, but it's the ability to pivot and change on the drop of a dime. That is true velocity. And you have to be able to build that in your organization, and you have to work at it every single day and show up. And that's the difference, Steve. It's not rocket science, man. We just kept going. and we kept learning and we kept making mistakes and we weren't afraid to fail. And I've been failing for a long time. And I just look at it like this, man, we're going to fail forward. I've been in situations when my whole world blew up, when you and I had that difficult conversation. I wanted to give up, man. I felt like my world was ending. Everything we had poured into our company for 12 years, was over overnight. And what did I do? We pivoted, man. We made an adjustment and we stayed positive and we moved forward. So I think that's the key, man, is just not being afraid that you're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw it up. And you got to recognize that and be transparent with your clients. Transparency is one of our core values, man. Like, we mess up all the time and we own our mistakes and we take ownership and we communicate to our clients where we're screwing up. Go look at our Google reviews. We got a 5-star review, right? Why do we have a 5-star review? It's not because we don't screw up. We screw up all the time, but it's the way we communicate to our clients when we do screw up and the way we fix it and make it right. And it's not about fighting with them. Own your mistakes as an MSP or a telco. You're going to screw it up, but I think we have enough information in the market today, man. Like, you could do anything. Like, I think I could go build a tractor tomorrow, and I've never done it. Like, I'm not afraid to try.
I picked up speaking of all things, and like, literally, it's insane.
You can learn. There's so much information out there, and I think that's what it is. That's the challenges, and you will struggle, and you will make mistakes, and it's super hard, and it's super frustrating, and it's going to screw up profits and gross margin, and it's going to flow up and down. But it's ebbs and flows in business, and I think that's a reality. Is too many times people give up. Steve, in 2009, when I started this company, we did $8,400 in top line revenue. $8,400, man. Wow. In 2010, we did $64,000 in top line revenue. So in 2 years, we didn't break $100,000 in revenue. Most people would have gave up. And trust me, man, the odds were against me. My wife was telling me I needed to stop doing it and go get a job. My father was telling me to stop and go get a job. But I kept my head down and I kept doing what I was doing. And look at us today, man. We have created an incredible organization that is changing people's lives, giving them an incredible career to come in and collaborate and be part of something special. And if I would have stopped then, I would have never been in the shoes that I'm in today. I've been able to create the thing that has really gave a platform for people in our organization to elevate their career and really have a voice and not be in the corporate America world, right? And be able to talk to the CEO and be part of what we're doing. And I think that's the key, man.
You're an overnight success that took 20 years of work to get there.
And we're still working at it, right?
Exactly.
It's just part of it, man. Like, it's part of the journey.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you. I think this has been an outstanding discussion. I love chatting with you. I love working with you. I'm really excited to work with Intelecom. I will definitely find my way down to Louisiana, and we'll get together. Awesome. Well, Sean, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, everybody. So I'm going to put a pin in it there. I know we're running a minute or two over. I just want to thank everybody for attending this session. I hope you got as much value out of it as I did. Hearing from Peter and Patrick, I want to thank them for participating and sharing their insights. And then Sean is just an amazing force of nature. And I learn something talking to him every time. I cannot put into words how much I enjoy, speaking with him. This afternoon, make sure you attend the 3 p.m. session with Peter Radizeski to learn how to prospect, to identify opportunities in the market, and to drive funnel and ultimately the revenue that comes through that by accelerating your deals through that process. He's going to go deeper than what we had during the discussion today. Make sure you tune in tomorrow to hear from all of our friends about how they're enabling communications in Teams, Zoom, and WebEx, text messaging, WhatsApp, contact center, analytics, call recording with AI, and a host of other things. And then we're going to close it out with a fireside chat, a deeper discussion with Patrick Watson from Cavell. So make sure you check in tomorrow at 2 p.m. And I will see you on the next session here at Fleet Week. Thanks, everybody.